Everyone thinks the colonists of Roanoke starved or were slaughtered. The real answer is far stranger, and it's written in a single word carved into a tree. Here's what we've been told for 4 centuries. In 1590, English colonists at Roanoke Island simply vanished. No bodies, no siege marks, no signs of struggle. The accepted story pins it on starvation, disease, or a massacre by Native Americans. It's clean, it's tragic, it's also incomplete, because that carved word, CROATOAN, changes everything we think we know about what actually happened in the Virginia colony. Let's start with the official version. Sir Walter Raleigh funded the colony. In 1587, around 117 people, men, women, children, landed on Roanoke Island off the coast of present-day North Carolina. They had supplies for a few months. They had no clear plan for the long term, and they had no idea they were making decisions that would define their entire legacy. Within weeks, supplies ran low. Hunting failed. The soil was harder to farm than anticipated. By the fall, the colony's leader, John White, faced a brutal calculation: stay and risk starvation or sail back to England and regroup. He chose to leave. He promised to return with reinforcements within 3 years. He left behind his daughter, his granddaughter Virginia, the first English child born in the New World, and 115 other colonists. That decision cost him everything. White's return voyage was delayed. War broke out between England and Spain. The Spanish Armada attacked. Ships were conscripted. Years passed. When White finally returned to Roanoke in 1590, 3 years late, he found the settlement empty, houses dismantled, fortifications torn down, the palisade pulled apart. No graves, no skeletons, no weapons scattered in the dirt. This is where historians have traditionally stopped. The colonists disappeared. Case closed. Theories piled up. They were killed in raids, they starved, they integrated with local tribes. Each explanation felt safe because it asked no difficult questions. But White found something that should have rewritten the entire narrative, and it mostly didn't. Carved into a tree near the fort in Roman letters was the word CROATOAN. No cross beside it, no distress signal, no indication of violence or haste. Just a word. White interpreted this as a planned relocation. The colonists, he believed, had moved to CROATOAN Island, a neighboring settlement of Native Americans with whom the English had maintained fragile trade relations. This wasn't a disappearance. It was a migration. But here's the problem with that narrative. The historical record goes silent. No European source ever documented the Roanoke colonists living with the CROATOAN. No artifacts bearing English markers were ever found in CROATOAN settlements. No oral histories from the CROATOAN people preserved the arrival of 115 English refugees. The word was carved. Then nothing. For 430 years, nothing. So what changed? Modern scholars began asking harder questions. What if the colonists didn't survive the journey to CROATOAN? What if they arrived but faced starvation there too? What if they dispersed further inland, assimilating so completely into Native American communities that within 1 or 2 generations, no one remembered they'd been English at all? The genetic evidence hints at this. DNA studies have found English ancestry markers in some modern Native American populations in the Carolinas and Virginia. Not definitive proof, but suggestive. The colonists didn't vanish into nothing. They vanished into the existing population. They became part of the tribes they encountered. Here's the real story. John White faced a choice with incomplete information. He couldn't stay. Supplies were gone. He couldn't know that England's wars would trap him for 3 years. He couldn't predict that by the time he returned, his colonists would have made their own choices, and that those choices would lead them away from the English settlement entirely. The colonists likely survived longer than historians assumed. They had time. They had Native American contacts. They had leverage, English goods to trade, English knowledge to share. But survival in a colonial frontier meant adaptation. And adaptation meant abandoning the English settlement. It meant dispersing into the surrounding tribes. It meant making peace with a landscape that would never feed them as Englishmen. CROATOAN wasn't a distress signal. It was a forwarding address. It said, "We didn't die. We moved. We made a deal. We're going somewhere you can find us if you come looking." White did come looking, but by then the trail had already gone cold. The colonists had integrated. They'd married into local families. Their children spoke 2 languages. Within a generation, the English identity dissolved entirely. The real cost wasn't paid in Roanoke. It was paid in erasure. The colonists survived by disappearing. Their names were forgotten. Their English heritage was diluted beyond recovery. CROATOAN became a mystery because we were looking for bodies. We were looking for failure. We weren't prepared to find success measured in adaptation, in letting go of identity, in choosing survival over nationality. What happened to the Roanoke colonists wasn't that they vanished. It's that they transformed. They made the hardest choice any settler could make. They stopped being English colonists and became something new. That word carved in the tree, CROATOAN, is the only record of a deliberate, strategic decision made under extreme pressure. And it's a decision we've misread for 400 years. The Roanoke colonists remain lost, but not because they died. They're lost because we stopped looking in the right places. We were searching for an English tragedy. What we found instead was the first chapter of American assimilation, a story not of vanishing but of choice, of survival bought with identity, of a single word that changed everything. Subscribe for more unsolved mysteries, where the official story misses the real answer.